the cloud. Hi, my name is Katherine Campbell. I am the program director with I Raise Girls and Boys International Corporation. And I would like to give a brief overview about I Raise and who we are. I Raise is a nonprofit organization dedicated to providing holistic programs aimed to supporting youth social emotional well-being. We work with youth from ages 5 to ages 18 years of ages. We have a variety of programs that we offer to under-resourced and underdeveloped communities and school systems. And on the line with me, I have my lovely co-host, Ms. Priscilla Prince. Ms. Priscilla Prince is the parent educator of I Raise Girls and Boys International Corporation as well. And tonight we are doing a live talk on her podcast entitled The Resilience of a Woman of Color. I'm super excited about this. This panel today. We have two wonderful people that we will be, that you will hear from. You'll get to hear their stories. You'll get to hear their voices. They're very dynamic, very phenomenal. And I just can't wait for you to see what we have in store. So the first thing that we are going to do is we're going to go ahead and introduce Miss Priscilla. At any time, you can unmute and say whatever it is that you need to say.
Okay, thank you. Hello all, welcome, welcome, welcome. This is the Parent Raise podcast. It's called the Parent Rise, I should say, podcast for I Raise, where we get to hear the voice of the I Raise parents, their supporters, the different staff members and community, and even the young people that they service. This is a podcast so you can hear the voices and what's going on in the community, what's going on, different topics and talks that we like to have. And I like to say thank you. Welcome to the number one, I should say, episode number 1.
Thank you, Ms. Prince, for that lovely words that you have said. And now I would like to go ahead and I guess I will introduce myself and read my own bio. So let's go ahead and get started. I am the guest co-host of this wonderful podcast. I will read my bio. Mrs. Campbell is an African-American female Bronx native. Can't really see, who brings over 10 years of experiences managing and operating nonprofit community programs in New York City. Mrs. Campbell, myself, holds an associate's degree in human services. Mrs. Campbell has devoted her entire career to servicing minority communities, including children, parents, and the elderly. Starting out as just a mentor with I Raise Girls and Boys International and working through the ranks as a program director of I Raise Community Division. Mrs. Campbell in her lifetime with I Raise has helped to grow the reach of the community division through ambitious community outreach effort and cultivating partnerships with re-owned organizations and universities. Mrs. Campbell recently designed and implemented a robust parent committee during her time with I Raise and during the pandemic, and was influential in working with the executive team to design and implement our Virtue Youth Academy. Mrs. Campbell also initiated and designed the I Raise Generation Z program, which we have a lovely panelist by the name of Sofia, who is the law instructor you will be hearing from. Just a little commercial break. A program that gives minority youth early exposure to college life through coaching, rigorous coursework, and insider access to top universities. Mrs. Campbell's passions for helping others radiates through her relationship and connection with each person she meets. She devotes every day to ensuring disadvantaged families receive access to the resources needed to live a purposeful, high quality, and meaningful life. And while I'm reading my bio, whoever wrote my bio, you guys are the bomb. I don't write my own bios. I normally have someone else that goes in and do it. Yeah, it made me cry, by the way. So thank you for that. And we do want to introduce our our lovely panelists that we have on today. So I would like to go ahead and first introduce Miss Alisha. Let's get to Miss Alisha Small, please. Miss Alisha Smalls is a mother, wife, and an entrepreneur, a coach, speaker, mentor in Brooklyn, New York, a Brooklyn, New York native. She is the CEO and founder of Keyz Kloset Dreamer Transportation Services and Living Fulfilled Coaching. While investing in her own personal development, Alicia became an avid mental advocate and founded her passion for women empowerment and coaching. This passion birthed Living Fulfilled Coaching at the end of 2019. A Living Fulfilled Coaching, Alicia partnered with millennial women to build their confidence through prioritizing and incorporating self-care habits that promotes a joy-fulfilled lifestyle. Alicia is a thought partner who uses a creative approach that maximize potentials in all the areas of her client's life. Alicia is a lover of all things outdoors and spend her free time cooking her favorite vegan meals. Yummy, Alicia. Traveling, spending time with families, and shopping for home decor. In addition to entrepreneurship, Alicia proudly volunteers at several nonprofit organizations such as Nami, Stella Girls, Woman Who Creates, Cheer Up Wellness, and I Raise Girls and Boys International. Miss Alisha Small, you are the bomb, girl. You doing it all. You are a mother, you are a founder, you are a sister. Thank you. And if we can just kind of pin Miss Alicia as well, so everyone can see her beautiful face. Okay. And now we're going to present our next panelist, and her name is Sofia. Sofia Rinvil. Sofia Rinvil committed to justice and human services and human rights, was inspired by her experiences growing up with a sparkle. Sorry, I'm getting a little lag over here, which sparkle a passion for business, law, and policy. Sofia is a leader, an advocate, an entrepreneur, a mentor, a philanthropist who has supported and better marginalized individual life. She has brokered partnerships between micro enterprise, elite law firms, and community partners in a nonprofit pro bono civil legal law. My God, civil legal services provided in New York City to impact small business owners and low income residents of New York City. You go, Sofia, you go. Amazing, Sofia. Without further ado, I would like to present Miss Alisha Small first. Alisha Small, you can go ahead and unmute yourself and give us a little few words that you would like to share with everyone who's watching.
Good evening, everyone. As you heard, thank you, Katherine, for reading my bio so beautifully. Good evening, everyone. My name is Alisha Small, and as Katherine said, I am a mother, a wife, an entrepreneur, a mentor. I have my hands in a little bit of everything. I'm happy to be here. Katherine, everyone, thank you for having me. I'm excited to get into the conversation about being a resilient Black woman and what that looks like for me, and how I model that for my children and the girls that I mentor. So thank you, and I can't wait to get started.
Yes, thank you, Alicia. And again, I'm sorry if I stumbled across a couple of bios. The lights were so light. It's like, it's like the lights. I was like, what's happening? But you're amazing. And I connected to you on a very personal level, just hearing your stories from the time that you were inside of the See Her, Be Her orientation, and just hearing you and just how articulate you are, how passionate you are, and just about everything that you do. And I said, I cannot pass up an opportunity to sit down, sip some tea, and I'm gonna have my tea in a little bit, but to sip some tea and actually go ahead and just speak with you. So thank you for being here. I can't wait to dive into great conversations with you. And Miss Sofia, please feel free to unmute yourself and give a few words.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Katherine. Thank you so much, Priscilla, for having us. And thank you so much, Alicia, for your amazing intro. I want to thank everybody for having us. By the grace of God that we're here today. I don't know who you serve, but I serve a God that is powerful. And I just want to say, too much is given, much is required. Thanks for having us.
Thank you. And again, Sofia, she's amazing. Sofia, every time I'm on the phone with Sofia, literally we are speaking for hours. And I'm like, girl, we got to get off the phone because we're about to get deep. We're about to go deep. So I'm like, we get into some deep conversation. We touch into some amazing things. And I can't wait for you guys to hear from this wonderful panelist after this commercial break. So let's go ahead and get into the commercial break as of now. And Giselle, whenever you're ready, you can go ahead with the commercial break.
Raise Girls and Bois International Corporation is a non-profit dedicated to safeguarding youth, restoring the community from the inside out, and raising the quality of life for minority children and families through holistic programs. The Raise strives to serve the whole child and works to empower every child to excel through in-school and community-based services. The organisation has transformed the lives of more than 10,000 families and youth. We offer mentoring, tutoring, virtual art and STEM classes, parent workshops, teen college prep courses, a coaching program for Black girls and more at no cost to you. Learn more at erasing.org/community programs. Want to support the well-being and health of children and families this year? $10 makes a big difference. Pledge to give just $10 a month. Text ERASE to 71777. That's ERASE. Text it to 71777 to support a child today.
Thank you so much for that commercial break. And without further ado, we're going to go ahead and we're going to get started with some of the questions that we have. And we're going to start off talking about the present, some questions that have to deal with the presence of being resilient. Okay, and then this is how we're going to go. We're going to start off with first Alicia, and from Alicia, we are going to go ahead and start off with Sofia. So let's get right into the questions. And we're going to start off with that first question. Resilience in the past. Where did you first encounter the word resilience? And what is your story? And that is for Miss Alicia.
Where did I first encounter the word resilience?
Yes.
I want to say not necessarily encountering the word, but seeing an example of it through my mother, through my grandmother, through my sister. I'm the youngest of 4 children, so I have a sister
Wow.
who's 9 years my senior, and I just briefly, I can't tell my mother's story, but I can tell what I witnessed over my lifetime. And I saw my mother being a victim of domestic violence. She was a mother at 17, and she had 3 children already by the age of 25. So you know, I seen it through my mother. I seen it through my grandmother, who's no longer here with us. And she was a single mother of two. She had an 8th grade education, and she raised two, you know, beautiful children by herself. My uncle was in the military. My mother is a registered nurse, and she's a college graduate. And so I think that it wasn't more so of seeing the word, but seeing the example of it throughout my life.
You kind of touched into the topic of the second question, but definitely it wasn't a word that was even said. I don't remember growing up and hearing the word resilient, but I remember seeing how strong the women were around me. For instance, my mother, my aunt, people I grew up in church. So I love how you put that. I love it. So would you consider your mother or your grandmother a resilient woman? Of course, you just answered it, and give a reason why you considered them a resilient woman. What have you seen them overcome?
Oh yeah, absolutely. My mother and my grandmother, like I said, I touched a little bit about my grandmother, who raised two strong, beautiful children. She was a single mother. She had a son and a daughter, and she raised them. She was born in 1922. So she had an 8th grade education, and she went on to work. She was a hard worker. She raised her children. She was one of the most intelligent, wisest women that I ever known, right? And so, of course, I don't know everything that she's been through. And by the time, I got here, she was just grandma. But from what I just stated, that had to be growing up in that time and segregation and, being a single mother and only having an 8th grade education and still being able to get a job and take care of yourself and take care of your children. Mm-hmm. That right there in itself. I don't know anything outside of that, but that right there itself. My mother, absolutely. As I stated before, she was a teenage mother. She had 3 kids by the age of 25. And she went through a lot. She experienced a lot. And again, she was able to overcome that. She is a college graduate, registered nurse, and she just celebrated a 70th birthday. So
happy birthday to her. Happy birthday. And I want to go ahead and loop Sofia right in. So Sofia, I am pinning you, girl.
Wow, that's so amazing. Man, I don't even know how to, but no, I wouldn't necessarily say it was the word resilient, because if the word resilient, I encountered it a few years ago. I would hear a lot of people say resilient woman, Black women are resilient. But I would say prior to that, I would always hear the word, you're strong, you're tough, you're able to. Mm-hmm. And recently, in the past few years, I've been hearing this new notion of resilience, but it's always been, you're tough, you're capable, you could do anything. Keep your chin up and everything. That's what I have always encountered, because me being a first generation American, because I'm Haitian American, so my parents are from Haiti. And my parents are in their 60s compared to a lot of other individuals. So when they came over to the state, my parents came from a country during the time they was under a dictatorship. Their president was a dictator and different things of that capacity. And then with the US and everything that was going on with the civil rights and all these different areas that came about. And in the time that my parents moved to Florida, and South Florida in the Miami area, Haitians weren't popular. There was a lot of discrimination, a lot of things that were said about the Haitian community. So if you were Haitian, most people, they hid that they were Haitian. They didn't want individuals to know. So I would say that despite of anything, I started early. So I know who I was and who I had to be from an early age because of the community that I grew up in and because of the background that I grew up in. Because being Haitian was not cool until actually around like 2010, when I was in high school and people started like wanting to be affiliated with the Haitian community. But prior to that, the only Haitian person in representation that I really knew was Wyclef. He was a big person in the community that always advocated that he was Haitian. So my resilience started early, because you can get picked on for being Haitian. You can get in fights for being Haitian. So you have to join groups, like, because it was this notion that all of us had to.
Sofia, I want to kind of dip right in, because I love where you're going with this conversation. So I know how you said you just had to do it. You just had to be a resilient person, you just had to show strength. How did that affect you growing up? How did that affect your relationships? How did it affect your emotional stability growing up, just having to be resilient and have to be strong and fighting all the time?
It made you tough, you know, it made you feel like you can do anything, because and then I always had support. So despite me being resilient, it wasn't just a resilient thing of like, oh, I have to fight the system, the other people. It was everyone. And I have parents that are very supportive back then, even though the methods that they used weren't the best, but they taught us if someone did something to you, you do something back. If somebody else get into a conflict with somebody else, you fight back. So I had that early on. So because of that, I didn't have the notion when I had time to feel sorry for myself, you know? I didn't have time to think about like, oh, I have to be soft. I was like, no, I have to stand up, because if somebody messes with me, I'm knocking your jaws off. If somebody brought it to because I come from a big family. I have a lot of brothers, I have a lot of sisters, I have a lot of cousins. So if someone messed with one, they messed with all. If someone messed with my friend, they messed with all. So it was never a situation where I said, even when I went to school and I went to different groups, it was never a situation where I was taught to be afraid to speak up for myself, advocate for myself, to be afraid to, even when I got pushback, I didn't take pushback as a pushback. I fought harder. So because of that, I never had that notion of like, I have to be in the corner and quiet and don't do anything. I was always coming from a background like, I have to scream a little louder. I have to do things a little louder. I have to do things more, because we don't have people who are supporting us or advocating for us. We have to be our own advocate. And because of that, that led to me saying and seeing all the stressors and different situations in the US. And it came from like, okay, as I got older and I seen different things and being in different environments, different community, it was just not just one group of things. It was something that we were dealing with at a national level, as a whole, as a country, as a standpoint, because this from stuff like, where do you wear? Where do you live? How's your hair? Or if you're a woman, why are you speaking that way? Or why are you listening to this type of song? Or why are you carrying this type of behavior or whatever, if it didn't fit their notion? And because of that, I had to learn that I can't be what you want me to be. I gotta be who I am. And who I am is I'm okay with that. And if you box me in this box as a Black woman, that's your personal problem, not mine. And that would lead me to being able to say, I can resist anything. And my resilience didn't start like 2 years ago. It started since the time I was born.
Thanks so much for sharing that. Thank you. You talked and you hit on a lot of topics. You hit on topics that have stuff to do with just being discriminated because of who you are and where you come from. And I'm sorry for that. I acknowledge what you went through here when you were in America, just because of you being Haitian. So I acknowledge that. I do apologize for it. That experience you have, but listen, that experience made you who you are today, fighting for other people and being in law and just doing phenomenal things. So we're going to go on with a few questions from the next slide, which is I believe it's the future or the present time. And Ms. P, you can unmute as much as you like. This is actually your show. Please do.
Yeah. I do have when you said when you were saying how you were getting like the attacks that were coming at you, it just so much reminds me of the definition of resilient. Is a Latin verb that started in 1529, and it actually means to meet, to leap, spring back, to rebound, to recoil. So it's like you were doing all of that. And then they had Francis Bacon in 1627, and he actually coined the verb, that verb resilience. He said like it's like a round orb of air that bounces like a ball when you hit the ball that's being kicked on or hit against the wall. Like, oh no, you can say whatever you want, but I'm going to bounce back. That's what resilience is. And that's what you exemplified when you were going through what you were going through. And I thank you for answering that question the way you did.
Yeah. Sofia be tapping into some things when she be speaking. So we're going to get into resilience in the present. And I would love for Miss Alicia to go ahead and answer this question. Do you think resiliency is a choice?
Absolutely. I think resiliency is a choice. The choice to be able to know how to handle adversity, right? Or equip yourself with the tools to know how to handle adversity and how fast you bounce back when life happens, right? Because I always say, and I think I forgot who I heard this saying from, but life's shoe is one size fits all, right? And so no matter what background we come from, gender, nationality, where we come from, life happens to all of us. And it's about your mindset, right? How you look at things. Is your glass always half empty, or is it half full? And how you bounce back from life's adversity. So, I mean, you can choose to, again, like I said, see your glass half empty, or you can choose to see it half full.
Okay. I want to get a little deeper because I want to dig some things out. I want to invoke some thoughts over here. So how do you feel that your mother, your grandmother, our ancestors, I want to take it a little deeper. Do you feel they had a choice into being resilient? Do you feel like that was a choice for them? Our ancestors, do you feel like that was a choice?
Yeah, I do. I absolutely do feel like it's a choice. Just speaking in general, right? 'Cause I definitely can't speak for them, and I definitely can't tell their story, and I only know a small percentage of what they went through. But we all have a choice, right? We all have a choice. My grandmother could have, she chose to have her children. She could have, because she had, lack of education, or maybe because of financial situation, she could have gave her children away, but she chose to keep her children. She chose to, play with the hand she was dealt, right? My mother could have done the same, but she chose not to. So I absolutely think that there is a choice in that. There was a choice in that.
Great. Thanks for sharing that. And Sofia, we're going to ask you the same questions as well.
Honestly, it depends on whom you ask them, because sometimes it could be a choice depending on the person's situation and where they're coming from. But then again, it cannot be a choice. It can also be a force. Some people are forced to be resilient, forced to be in certain situations because certain things may happen. Like my grandmother, my mother's mother, she's from Cuba, and she came over to Haiti at a really young age, which caused because of what was going on in Cuba. And then when she was in Haiti, she accustomed and she lived a certain way. And then the changes that my mother made and my father made to come over to the US. So because of the system policies and things that they were going on over there. So that for them, resilience, them being resilient and navigating the system, navigating this country, navigating everything is a choice. But for it was forced. It wasn't necessarily a choice, it was forced. But like for me being in the US, even though I have better opportunities and better choices than they had, the options to pick from than they had, it's a choice for me now to be resilient, because there's certain things that I can choose to not participate in, but also I have certain options that are available to me, like how we're having this open dialogue and conversation about mental health. Mental health was never seen as mental health in my community. It was because we coming from a background of people who are very spiritual, right? So if you would say someone had to be a certain way, you would say, oh, the devil is attacking them, or they practicing certain craft, or they're not tough enough, or like toughen up. Why are you crying? Oh, I had it worse. When I was your age, I had to walk to school. You have the privilege, you have a bus. So why are you making excuses? Why can't you pass the test? Why aren't you going through this? So it depends on who you ask in and the circumstances. But if you look at this country, and particularly towards our demographic of people, it depends on whom you talk to, because some of the stuff that affects an individual may not affect a group. But you do have some people that live in a bubble and they're safeguarded from certain issues and policies and different demographical things that are going on. So me, one Black woman may not experience what the next Black woman is experiencing. Like some people, they might have a choice to have a child. Some individuals might not have that choice to have a child because they might have been raped and they might have not wanted to carry that to full term, or they might have these generational issues from health, or mental things that they know that they're dealing with, that they don't want to pass it on to their children, or generational curses. So resilient depends. We can never just say there's a one fit all choice answer for that. We have to always take into notion and deeper thinking into like, okay, what will lead this? If it's a choice or is it force? Or how can we look at things, or the options or the resources available to them, or if someone able to comprehend what you're stating to them? Because I can state to someone as much as I want to, oh, you're resilient because someone said something to you and you didn't say anything back. That doesn't mean the person is resilient. They may just not attack you at that moment. They probably should be thinking of ways to come back and tend forward and come back to do certain things to prevail. Or they might crash and say, you know what, I don't like this. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna take my life. We tend to not think about suicide and different things. So you can see someone smiling all day long, and they might be on the verge to say, I can't handle this anymore. I'm gonna kill myself. And it's a horrible thing. I'm gonna take my life. It's a horrible thing to think about. But I think you have to have something that you think you trust in and you believe in greater than that. Like me, I have a faith in God. And I think because of my faith in God, as you see as things go on in this world, like right now with inflation and everything that's going on, we have to, we think we're resilient because of, we feel like we're being forced into being that resilient. But if you take away some of the things that we think we need, we may not even need it. And if we think about whom and why we're choosing these decisions, then they'll be like, okay, is this a choice or is it being forced? It could be a choice, but necessary. It also could be forced. It can be both. It can be both.
I like how you went from different parts of it, because sometimes in life, we don't choose to be resilient. Sometimes resiliency is forced on us. Sometimes we have no choice but to be resilient with certain situations. And then there's times that, we do have a choice if you dig deeper into it. But I would like to hear some feedback from Alicia. How do you feel about what Sofia had to say?
I definitely respect her perspective. I think that we first have to determine what does strong look like for you, for me, for Priscilla, for Sofia. It may look different for all of us. Sofia made a statement and she said that if somebody attacks you and you don't attack them back, that doesn't mean that they're being strong. But to me, the ability to be able to control my words and control myself and know when something deserves a response and not deserve a response, because my response could have me lose my life, right? So the ability for me, my mind, to know when to respond and not to respond is resilience for me, is strength for me. So I would first say that you have to determine what does that mean, because that might not mean the same for everyone. And so when I say that, yeah, everyone does have a choice, right? The right of choice is the most, I think, that's my perspective. I think that your right of choice is the most powerful thing that you have in this world. I teach my children that, right? Because you can say, for lack of better words, and I'm just using an example, no one has a gun to your head, but even still, you still have a choice then, right? Technically, you still have a choice, right? You can stand there or you can run. You can say something, you cannot say something. You can do it. So that's how I look at things. And I would just say, well, you would have to define that word. What does that word mean to you? Because what strength and resilience looks like to me may not look the same for someone else.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for that. Thank you.
Okay. Can I just chime in? Because both of you did kind of tap into the emotional, do you feel that being resilient can affect the emotional stability of women of color, right? And that's the problem, because when you see a lot of women of color go through so many mental illnesses and sicknesses and diseases and stuff, because they have no choice in being resilient. But, and I appreciate the way you said it depends on where the person is coming from or where that person is at. You get what I'm saying? Because now it's being made aware. This is why I like this table talk that we're having right now. We're being made aware that we do have a choice. We can call out for help. No, it's not a devil. No, it's not a demon. I'm tired. Help, and I appreciate that.
other thing that I wanted to kind of tap into when you said resilience, sometimes it's not a choice. I was thinking, even though we are forced into certain situations, when it all comes down to it, it's a choice. We either going to sit here and die, or we're going to move past it and take the punches along the road. And I don't want to say make no lemonade, take the punches along the road and learn from it and grow from it and do, just learn and grow. But when we are put in certain situations that force us to be, I don't want to say that force us to be resilient, but when we are thrown in certain situations, when we're thrown in a situation that causes us to be strong, sometimes we tap into the strength that if you are a Christian and you got, I don't want to get into the Holy Ghost and stuff, but if you are a Christian, and we sometimes tap into the strength of God, and there's other times other people say, well, we have to tap into our inner strength. So sometimes we are literally, we're put in situations where we're just saying, we either going to take this, lie down and die, or we're going to get up and we're going to do something about it and live. So, I mean, that probably was deep, but, but I just had to throw that out there.
True.
And I want to move towards our next question because we are actually getting into the emotions. We're digging our way in. So do you feel that being resilient can affect the emotional stability of a woman of color?
Yes, absolutely. And I think that from what I know now in my own personal journey and my own personal healing and growth journey, I think that Black women and just women in general, we are forced to hold that negative badge of honor. And, like I said, what is resilience to you? What does that look like to you? From back then, I didn't need anyone. I didn't have to ask for help. I had to learn everything on my own. Right? I had to be strong. Right now, the 37-year-old me is resilience is being self-aware, right? That's strength to me. Knowing when to ask for help, right? My self-care, knowing sometimes I do need a break, right? Miss Priscilla said, no, sometimes I'm tired. Yes, resilience to me is going in my room and crying after a hard day, just getting it out, letting my feelings be known. And that's what resilience looks like to me. And I think that, like I said, we have that, I always say that as a woman, we are natural nurturers. And so whether you're a mother or not, we're taking care of someone. We either taking care of our husbands, our spouses, our parents, a friend, but rarely we know how to receive, right? I'll tell you this really, really short story because I'll take this with me all the way to the end of my life. And this is when I knew that, wow, my mindset around being strong, right? Because I was taught strong is you got to fight back. If someone said somebody hit you, you hit them back. I was always in fight mode, right? Until I learned that I was fighting the wrong people for the wrong reasons, right? Even myself. And so I was crossing the street, and you have that four-way intersection, and of course you give the right of way to the pedestrian. And so the gentleman was letting me go past, and I could not, and I kept saying, no, you go, but he was doing the right thing. And after about 2 minutes of going back and forth with me, before he left, he stopped his car and he looked at me and he said, my love, you need to learn how to receive. And in that moment, I didn't realize that I was so strong, right? My idea of being strong. I couldn't even let someone do right by me, right? And let me cross the street. It was even a fight. That was even a fight.
Wow. Something so small can change the dynamic of your whole life. My God. Wow.
Wait. She just opened up a whole new thing.
Here's the thing. I just opened it up. Miss Alisha. Yes. Sometimes we don't know how to, we miss our blessing too, not being able to receive.
But then
Wow.
I think that blew me away too, because we're so conditioned to not receiving. We're always giving out and giving out. And I like when he said you have to learn how to receive. You see, we don't get the memo or the message because we're so busy giving out. And we're
so eager to, not even eager. We always got to be the strong person. We always want to be that strong sister, that strong friend. And sometimes even knowing, I think resiliency is knowing when to say no, knowing when to say, listen, I don't got the strength. I don't got the time. I don't got the energy to deal with your issues. I need to get my own mental health issues in check before I can go and deal with you. Let me clear my mind out. Let me do what it is that I have to do. Learning to say no, because as we grow up, it's like we are conditioned not to say no. We are conditioned to take care. If someone say, can you do this? We want to do it. If someone say that, hey, we got to go, I want to talk to you about something. And we always got to be that strong friend that hear all the garbage and that got to sit there and try to straighten out somebody else's life. We got to be that strong sister, that strong mother that try to straighten everything out. And we lose ourselves inside of that. We lose our identity and who we are, trying to be resilient. So I love how you said that. We got to learn how not, and I'm saying me too, because I'm talking to myself here. I got to learn how to receive, I got to learn how to receive, because that was so profound when the guy said, you got to learn how to receive. Something so small can change the trajectory of how you think, your life, your mind. And that was powerful right there. Thanks for sharing that. So, Sofia, did you get a chance to answer this question? Come on, this is a table talk. Unmute when you need to unmute. We are having conversations. Yes.
Oh, no, but I'll answer it now. I just don't like interrupting people when they talk. Just a difference of I have to say. But no, you have to also think about the women of color, the history of this country and the history that we're coming from, because most of the women, they were left alone. Their husbands were killed. They weren't around. So a lot of times, a lot of these women are growing up when they're growing up in a single parent home, and their mom has to be the protector. Their mom has to protect them against everything. So their mom teaching them how to be strong to face things outside of the world. And so a lot of times they don't get that little soft emotional tap into their feminism to take care of everybody, because Big Mama house is the house that everybody goes to and check on. And when they have something going on, they got to check on Big Mama, because Big Mama is running the whole house, because Granddad is out there working, doing different things, trying to provide, trying to keep a roof over your head. So a lot of things of the women of color not tapping, it affects their emotion. It does, and in a lot of things that they go through, they usually have this conversation in prayer. They tap into services of churches. If they're not tapping into services of churches, they find one confidant person that they can confide in, because sometimes they can't even confide in their husbands, because their husbands might have second children or family. And sometimes they don't have husbands because they're coming from broken backgrounds. And me growing up with my father, I noticed how that made me more emotional, because my mother, she was in the emotional type, teaching us how to be emotionally expressive and being emotionally stable, because she never showed me that. She always showed me to be tough. My father is the one who allowed me to be emotional. My father was the one who says, okay. My father is the one who said it's okay to be soft. It's okay to say, I need this, I need help, speak up. Where I noticed that, because even with my brother, she would nurture them more. She would baby them more. She would be more soft with them. So men have a certain expectation that they expect from the woman of how we're treated as women of color than how we're treated. So basically, overall, it does affect you, And then on top of that, as you go through things, you study, you read, you look at other behaviors, you look at different things. You're like, okay, this is why I'm not expressing my emotion. But also with expressing your emotion and being emotionally stable, you have to make sure that you're not allowing people to take advantage of you. Because some people learn the manipulation tactics of women of color, because oh, sister, you strong, you got this. You don't have to worry about nothing. Just give me some money, and they take advantage of some of these women, or some of these women never heard that they're beautiful, they're powerful, they could do certain different things. So they fall into these trap relationships, they fall into these trap abuse, they fall into this that neglect from being resilient so much. You can see it like at a young age. You watch a kid that grows up in a certain neighborhood and have to be strong because their mom might be strong out on drugs, their father might not be in the story, or their grandma is raising them.
Oh, you are going in. You
I'm just trying to let her finish, but I'm saying she taking over the whole show. Go Sophie.
Sophia, yeah.
But she's telling the truth.
Isn't it the truth? We live in a community, we live in an area that's so under-resourced, that's so underdeveloped, in a community where there's drugs, in a community where there's poverty, where there's just so much going on. And the men are forced to be men at 10 years old, or forced to be men at 11 years old. And because their mom may be on drugs, their mom may have just left, up and dip, their dad is not in there, so they feel like they have to be the man of the household. We got our little boys running the street feeling like they got to protect their mom, they got to protect their brothers, they got to protect their sisters, just all over. You just opened up a new conversation. My God, Sophia. Yes, because you know what? It's true. It's true. This is what we live in.
But she's so busy working. It's so hard. Like they wear so many hats. You know what I mean? And like you said, they get taken advantage of. You know, and if you look at other communities, or if you look at other cultures, that's not necessarily the narrative. You understand what I'm trying to say? So even in a Latino home, you know, if the dad is not there, he's working and working and working, and the mom is working, and you know, just wearing so many hats, and they're emotionally not stable. It messes with ability, which goes on to mess with the health, or you know, it's not only that. It's I'm not being a racist, Lord knows I'm not, but it's systemic. If you go back and you see how it was introduced into, you know, back in slavery times, and how they separated the families, how they separated the, you know, everything they knew about themselves. They erased everything, you know, and reconditioned them, where the women had to, you know, be there if their husband was lynched, or, you know, whatever may have happened during those times, you know. So it's like intergenerational trauma.
Yeah.
And we have to, you know, find a space for healing, find a community of women that can come together and say, you know what, let's help each other.
You know what, Miss P, you know what I love what you just said, when you were talking about finding a space for a woman, because when you have a mother, when you have a woman that's in their household who is healed, every one of the children that's down in that mother's household would now be healed, because you have a mother that is level-headed. You have a mother who's saying, okay, I know this is what I was dealing with, but I am not going to let it get involved into my parenting. Because sometimes being resilient, sometimes all of these things that we take on get into our parenting. But once we heal from being, I'm not going to say from being resilient, once we heal from that trauma, those issues concerning us, the things that we have went through, or the things that our mother or our grandmother went through, once we heal from it, you would see the difference in our household. You would see the difference in our children. You would see the social emotional side of our kids being developed. You would see our kids being kids, and now our kids being adults. You will see that the responsibility for a kid to take care of another child, or the responsibility for a kid to take care of the household and to provide food, will be gone. You will see order in the household once that mother heals from that intergenerational trauma. I love how I'm just trying to piece your stuff together, but I love how you just said that. I love it.
Exactly.
You're on mute.
I saw that. Did was y'all reading my lips? I was reading my own lips. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to get into that commercial break. Let us take a commercial break. so that we can go ahead and do what it is that we need to do. Okay, so commercial break.
I thought that was the break. Okay.
That was not the break. That was someone calling. My phone is connected and I do apologize, but we're moving forward. Commercial break. Let us go ahead and play that video. And thank you for putting that commercial break in, Miss Giselle.
There's no sound, please.
Raise Girls and Boys International Corporation is a non-profit dedicated to safeguarding youth, restoring the community from the inside out, and raising the quality of life for minority children and families through holistic programs. The Raise strives to serve the whole child and works to empower every child to excel through in-school and community-based services. The organisation has transformed the lives of more than 10,000 families and youth. We offer mentoring, tutoring, virtual art and STEM classes, parent workshops, teen college prep courses, a coaching program for black girls and more at no cost to you. Learn more at erasing.org/community programs. Want to support the well-being and health of children and families this year? $10 makes a big difference. Pledge to give just $10 a month. Text ERASE to 71777. That's ERASE. Text it to 71777 to support a child today.
Thank you for that commercial break. We are back. And again, we have Miss Alisha Small, who is one of our panelists. We also have Miss Sofia, who's on as well. We're going to get into the third segment of our conversations. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, resilience in the future. What are the effects that it can have on our children? OMG, we were just talking about that, guys. My God. So we're going to start out with Miss Alicia, because Miss Alicia, I know for a fact that you wanted to say some things. I saw your head nodding when we were speaking. So definitely, Miss Alicia, you can go ahead and unmute yourself and jump right into that.
What are the effects that it can have on our children? So that would be solely dependent upon what version of strength you show to your children, right? I want to go back to saying that what you decide to heal or grow from, if you decide to address those unresolved childhood trauma or adulthood trauma, that is directly affecting your parenting. I definitely would say I'm a mom of three. I have a 4, an 8, and a 15-year-old. And when I had my 15-year-old, I was 21. I turned 22 that next week. So I came into motherhood unaware of myself, still dealing with a lot of childhood trauma, and that did affect how I parented in the beginning. When I had my daughter, I was almost 30, so I wasn't the same person that I was at 21, and I knew so much more. I had healed and I had grown so much more. So my idea of strength and resilience was something totally different than when I became a mother. So I think that the effects could be positive or it could be negative depending on the parent's mindset and where they are in their total wellness journey. So what I'm always the example for my children. That's why I'm always so invested in my personal development and my healing and growth, because as you know, children sometimes do as you say, but they always do as you do, right? So what I model to my children, strength looks like being able to express your emotions in a healthy way, right? We talk, we have family meetings. I allow my children I normalize taking care of yourself and your self-care and your mental health. That is normal in my household, and it is a requirement in my household. And what strength looks like to them is, like I said, being able to talk about your feelings in a healthy manner, a healthy and respectful manner, allowing them to talk. I came up in a household where you were seen and not heard. And if you asked why to something, it was because I said so, right? And I apologize to my children. We talk. If I'm wrong, I take accountability. Why? Because I want my children to take accountability for their actions, right? And the only way that they're going to do that is if they see mommy doing it, right? We talk about therapy. We're going to family therapy. That is, I'm a very big mental health advocate. And so, that's what strength looks like, right? Being able to be vulnerable, taking accountability, being self-aware, saying I'm sorry, right? Saying I'm sorry when you're wrong. That emotional intelligence, me being able to lay me consistently equipping myself with the tools, strengthening my emotional intelligence, taking care of my mental health, allowing my children to see me take very good care of myself. That's the foundation that I'm setting, right?
Yes.
And like I said, it depends if it's going to have a negative effect or if it's going to have a positive effect. And that's solely dependent on the parent and their growth journey.
Love it, Alicia. I love it. And I love how you hit on the fact that just having the norm in your household, right? Just having that norm in your household, being vulnerable, being transparent with your kids, taking accountability. Too many times I hear parents say, well, I'm not going to apologize to my child. They're just a child. Yes, they are a child. They're a child that is learning, that is growing, that is watching, that is observing, and that is picking up coping skills, that is picking up different type of skill set that will kind of, have an effect on who they are and their behavior in the future. So I love how the fact that you set your norm in your household. Listen, mental health. We do this in the household. We need a mental health check-in. If you need a mental health break, take that mental health break. What do I have to do? So what do we have to do in order for you to be okay mentally? For you not to just lose it all of a sudden. We have so many times in so many different households where kids are breaking down, where kids are losing it, where kids are just having nervous breakdown, temper tantrums, trauma, and it's because of them not taking care of their mental stability, or the parents not laying down that foundation that, you know what, if you're not okay, let me know you're not okay. Take that mental health break. If you need that break, take it. If you need to speak to somebody, you can speak to somebody. That's okay. Encouraging mental health is the key. And I love how you went ahead and put that together. Ms. P, do you have anything to put in? Because I would like for you guys to just jump right in.
I wish. This is awesome. I might make this as Mrs. Campbell's podcast. I don't know. I'm just playing. But you said a lot because children are supposed to be what you're seeing and not heard. Do as I say, not as I do, and that sends mixed messages to minds that are developing, you know. I'm saying, yes, we have to have boundaries in the household and boundaries with the children, because children without boundaries is going to be end up in, some place where they do have boundaries, and we don't want that. But what you're saying is that it's based on what type of resilience. And I like how you're looking at that from which side of the, the coin is resilience coming from. Saying I'm sorry, or sometimes I even say, if one of my children, and they're adults now, but if they bring up something that I happened, hey, I'm sorry, I didn't know, I was, a young parent, but I apologize. I'm pretty sure you're doing better than I am. The same God that brought, brought us through this, is gonna do better with you, But what I'm saying also is that when we use resilience in a positive way, it is so powerful for our children to bounce back when situations arises. That's what I'm trying to say. Thank you for that. Sophia?
It depends on the child, because sometimes, like, I have a lot of brothers and sisters, and each of them are different. Like, they handle it differently. So you just have to know what type of child that you have, and then on top of that, what type of siblings or cousins. So resilience can benefit certain kids, but some kids, it breaks them down. And when it breaks them down, you can't think of them like as weak or going through something. You have to be there, know how to respond to them. And then you have to also keep in mind that your brain don't fully develop until you're 25. So you might have a child that can weather whatever storm, go out there, play football, tackle, knock somebody down, get back up, they didn't make the team, and try again. And you might have that child that's like, oh no, I didn't make it. This is the end of my life. I don't know what else I'm going to do. You just have to know your child, like learn your child. And it's kind of hard for our community, because sometimes we're so hard on our kids because of the things that's going on. Let me be careful, but we're hard on our kids because I don't have any kids, but I am a sister to everybody and family members. So I consider them my kids. But also just paying attention to little things like their behavior. Their behavior will let you know like where they are. Like, I have students that I'm teaching, and certain students you can tell like, okay, this kid might be going through something at home. Let me see if I can have a conversation with them. And some kids won't open up to you. So you have to see how it's affecting them, and don't put how you will handle it. Don't put what you think you should do, or somebody else say, oh, well, so-and-so daughter ain't going through that, and she didn't do this, or so-and-so son ain't doing that. So why you think you can't do that? Oh, so you think you're better than everybody? No, don't do that to the child, because you don't know what type of child you have. And resilience is not always feasible for every child. You have to learn your child. That's all I have to say. I'm not a parent, but I have siblings. A lot of them. Like 20 plus.
We can tell you have some siblings, Sophia.
Observant. That's wisdom right there, because you can't compare everybody with everyone.
That's right.
She's very observant. I like that. You have to know your child. But every child is not the same. Their perception and everything. We're all individuals that are uniquely and fearfully. Scripture says, I love the Bible, fearfully and wonderfully made, and not to compare ourselves among ourselves. Like, you can't compare, and you have to know your children. I appreciate that. I really appreciate that.
You know what? It's so true, because every children, you can't deal with them the same. I have 5 children, for those who know me, and my children, let me tell you something. They are they all have strong personalities, very strong personalities. And the way that I deal with one child, I don't necessarily deal with the other child, because I know my children. I know what makes them tick. I know, I know their personality. I know, you get what I mean? Sometimes one of them needs a little soft talking to, a little redirection, things like that. So knowing your children is really important when you're thinking about resiliency. And even when you're thinking about parenting, knowing your children, because I parent differently with every child. No, I don't have my favorites. I tell them that all the time, but I will never parent one child the same way that I parent the other one, because one of them may not need tough love and one may need tough love. They all need to be nurtured, but you know what I mean? So I would nurture all of them, but one of them is just, every one of them is different. And that's the key. So I love how you brought that into perspective. And let's just jump right into the second question. And I know we were hitting these questions, to be honest, like as we were talking and making this conversation, we were like going down a list, not even knowing. Down the list, right?
Took over my phone. Let me stop. I'm only teasing, just a little jokey. So
Oh, you should have got yourself together, Miss Thing. We were moving and grooving, right, Miss Alicia? Moving and
we were having
grooving.
technical difficulties. My apologies. Don't worry.
Okay. So what are the ways we can use resiliency to help our children, and which way? And I think Miss Sofia, you already kind of hit on that, but Miss Alicia, go ahead and hit it.
Yeah, I think I definitely agree with what Sofia said about knowing your children. So I have 3 children in 3 different age ranges, 3 different places in their lives, and my children are totally different. And my son, he's real reserved, laid back. He likes who he likes. And he doesn't do too much. My daughter, she's a social butterfly. Everybody's her friend, and she's highly emotionally intelligent at 8 years old. And so I say that to say, my son may handle things where he can bounce back very quickly. Something happens, all right, he's gonna get back on his feet and he's gonna do it. That's strength, right? My daughter, she's gonna cry it out, but that's also strength, right? Being able to, and letting them know, just because you guys are different or you handle things differently, that doesn't mean that it's not resilience or it's not strength. Because he doesn't cry as much as he cries, or he handles things differently, that is still strength. So but the message is still the same. The foundation is still the same. Yes. And that's how I use it to help my children, having them identify, just because Logan cries it out, she cries it out, and she's gonna stand up and she's gonna tell me, Mom, and she's gonna say it in front of a whole crowd of people, I need to tell you how I feel. Makai, though, he's gonna pull me to the side in the room, and he's more susceptible to saying how he feels in private. That's still strength. It's just that you guys are doing it in different ways, and that is okay.
Love it.
I love
and
that.
You know what I love about that, Alicia, because you're allowing your kids to handle or to deal with their emotions, and just to deal with whatever's going on in their own way. You're allowing them to be themselves and using a healthy outlet while doing it. So I love how you just say, listen, one may have to go and cry, one may not, just pull you to the side, but in their own strength and in their own way, they are being resilient. That's, yeah. Any feedback? I would like to get feedback from the rest of the rest of the guests and the co-hosts, wherever she is.
You know what? This was a really good talk, because we put a whole new spin on resilience today. And I love how both of our panelists came forth, and they were like, one is not a parent, but she's observant. Right? One is a parent, and you know what? But because of what she saw, you said, she educated herself. She said, remember when she was in her 20s, she wasn't the same when she was in her 30s. I love that. It's progressive. You're growing and being observant. And also, just like they said, it depends on that person. It depends on the parent. I love that mental health is being included, here, because it was frowned upon. It's frowned upon in the culture, and they say it a lot, and I guess they answered the question, like, how can we address intergenerational trauma? They answered all the questions already. I mean, does anyone else have anything else?
We definitely gonna let them hit on that, because I know they didn't expand and they didn't go into depth into exactly what they wanted to. So that's a question that we kind of hit on, but we didn't tackle yet. So let's go ahead and tackle that question. And we can start off with Miss Sofia. How do we heal from intergenerational trauma, and what ways do you feel that we can heal?
Honestly, I feel like seeking medical health is non-negotiable, and I don't care who gets offended. And that starts out by first acknowledging that you may have a mental health issue, that you may need help, and taking care, like taking assistance from others, and not being too prideful. And then we can help the powerful Black community within our women, so we don't put all the baggage on our women. Like, we shouldn't be punished for being strong, and we shouldn't be punished for wanting to be soft, like if I say I don't feel like doing this today, or I don't feel good, we shouldn't be like, well, you better sign up because who's gonna take care of these kids? No, we need to be able to say, you know what, I need help.
Yes.
I need to step in. I don't want to do anything. I don't want to work this year. I don't want to work 3 years from now. That's okay. And not only that, but we must learn to put on our own oxygen first before we take on everybody else's stuff. Because the thing that we have an issue with as Black women, we have this very complex where we want to save everybody. We want to save our neighbors' kids. We want to save our kids. We want to save the dog. We want to save Maria. Like, you want to do everything for everybody. You want to go out here and participate in every election. You want to participate in everybody. Like, we need to put oxygen on ourselves first, take care of our minds, our bodies, our soul, whatever that means for you, and get the help that we need to cure the intergenerational traumas that we face, because we're passing it on. Because you'll hear stories where kids will say, well, you wasn't home, you was too busy with Miss Jackson helping her kids, and you never home.
I hear that.
We need to learn to make sure before we go out here and try to be everybody else superheroes, that we put on our own oxygen first, and then we invest in our kids, and we pay attention to our kids, and most important, and we listen to our kids. Because sometimes we're not listening, we're just telling them, like, you need to get straight A's. You need to come home at 5. I don't care. I'm grown. You don't tell me what to do. And if you got a problem, tell me if you're going whoop-de-whoop-de-whoop. And it's the way that we talk to our kids. And then we passing these traumas on to them. And then we're so confused. Like, why do they grow up and not respecting us? And then also having those boundaries. Like, when you're raising kids, don't be their friends. You're not a child friend in the beginning. In the beginning, raise them with some morals, with some values, with some standards. And then that's how you hear generation colors. And don't say, oh, my mom always did it like that, so I'm fine. I turned out fine. You will be fine. No. You're not fine. Some of the ways your mother, your grandmother, your great-great-great-grandmother did it was wrong. And the first thing is acknowledging that, and then putting that oxygen on and say, you know what, let me take a step back. Some of the stuff these people was doing was crazy. I'm not doing that. And some of the stuff that I'm seeing certain people, and then learn from other people's mistakes. You don't have to make the same mistakes that everybody else made. So just put on your own oxygen first. Read. If you pray, meditate, whatever that you do. If you eat cereal or milk, do that. If you eat fruits, do that. If you like wings or whatever, you're vegetarian, whatever, do something to take care of yourself. Like, even if it's like 30 minutes, reading a book, relaxing, or not doing anything, be okay with that. You don't need to be so strong, because when you're strong, you killing your body. Like, the physical body can only handle so much. And in the mental space, we're not taking care of our mental, and we're not breathing properly in and out. And then we're like, okay, I'm this age and I have all these different diagnoses, the health problems that the doctor is telling me I have. Is because you're doing too much. You're doing too much. So that's the only way I can think of, is like healing generational traumas for our kids. It's just taking care of yourself first.
Well, you thought of a lot of stuff, Sofia.
Helping them. But it's true. It's so true.
You were speaking straight facts. You hit on a lot of topics that I like, and one thing that I like that I can take away from I have two things to take away from what you're saying. One of the things is knowing your limits. Knowing when you be like, enough is enough. Because I do it all the time. I'm like, I ain't dealing with this, not today. I'm like, I don't have the mental capacity to deal with it. Sometimes my husband, like, oh, you're a strong Black woman. No, I'm not. I'm a vulnerable little flower. I'm delicate. I am tired. Treat me as such. Hold me. I'm not doing it today. You get what I mean? And it's okay to be that way. It's okay to say, today I choose not to be strong. Today I choose to deal with whatever it is that I'm dealing with. Knowing your capacity, knowing your limits, knowing when to just say, no, I'm not going to do it. And another thing that I learned is that my mom, she took on everybody's responsibilities. She done took on this person child, that person child. She done took on her own, her brother's child. She done moved her other brother's 4 kids inside of the house, and she always tried to take care of the family, keep them together. And there was just a whole bunch of kids running through the house. There wasn't no order. There was nothing going on. There was just like 12 kids in one house. The fathers did whatever they did, partake in whatever extracurricular activities that they were taking part in, and the kids ran rampant through the house, and she stressed herself out, taking on too many kids and having nervous breakdown. So guess what? I would never do that. I ain't taking it on nobody's child. I have kids of my own. I'm not taking care of no family. I have a family on my own. So if somebody be like, oh, I need your help taking care of this child, I'd be like, absolutely not. I have kids of my own. I have my own mind that I take care of, knowing my limits. And I don't mean to sound mean. I don't mean to sound rude, but I'm not taking care of nobody else before I take care of myself. And I have 5 kids that I love to take care of some days that I'm just saying, I can't take on extra people kids. I will not take on extra people kids. I love my children dearly, and I would not put them through that. My kids are very structured. They have order. I'm not taking on nobody kids, and I'm not making that nobody inside of my house messing up my family dynamic, messing up my housing structure because another parent failed to get it together. And I know it sounds wrong, but I saw my mom go through a mental breakdown, and I saw her, and she took years, 20 years to recover from a mental breakdown. I saw it with my own eyes at the age of 12, and I said, that will never be me. In a good way. So I had a lot to take away from that, and you hit some deep conversations, and I see Miss Alicia nodding. Come on, Miss Alicia, jump in, jump in.
I think one of the ways that we can address intergenerational trauma is by normalizing healing and growth, right? And I think that was just said in a lot of ways, being able to identify that trauma in ourselves, making the choice to heal from it. It wasn't until I healed myself that I was able to go back and forgive my mother and my father, right? And once I was able to do that, I was able to have a better understanding that, and knew that my mother did the best she could with what she knew and what she had. So then I could bring that back to my daughter and my children, and I can sit and have these conversations and say, you know what, I went through this and I did this and I suffered from this. Okay, and I suffered from this, right? And this is what it looks like to grow and heal from it. So I think first, normalizing healing and growth, being able to understand, right? I always ask, who hurt the person who hurt you, right? Being able to have an understanding, and then also being able to have a conversation about it. We spoke about this all throughout tonight, that even today, with all the technology we have, the world that we live in, and we have access to so much information, taking care of your mental health is so taboo. People don't know the difference between taking care of your mental health and having a mental illness, right? And they think that, oh, you only go to therapy because you have a mental illness, and only people with mental illnesses go through this, and there's such a wide spectrum when you talk about mental health, right? And you don't have to have a mental illness, just like your physical health and how you have to work out and you have to take care of your body, you have to take care of your mental health. So I think that addressing intergenerational trauma starts with normalizing total wellness, normalizing healing, normalizing growth, so that you can go back and understand where it stems from and you can address it in the present.
I just love hearing from you, Miss Alicia. Every time I hear from you, my whole spirit just get calm. But yes, I love the fact that you said talking to someone, even if you don't have a mental health, a mental health diagnosis, just speaking with someone, sorting out your thoughts. A lot of times I go and I speak to someone when, things are going on, or I'll speak to God. I'm just going to put that out there. There's times I'm like, God, this is what's going on in my mind. This is what's going on in my thoughts. But addressing what's going on in your mind, talking through that, giving yourself some time to kind of relax, meditate, think on things, and then reacting to certain situations. So I love it. Miss P, I'm going to bring you right in.
Okay, where am I?
It doesn't
Oh,
matter where you
there I
are,
go.
just speak.
Okay, okay, it doesn't. And I love what you said, Ms. Campbell, and Sofia and Alicia, because you learn from the experience of what your mom went through, and you put up that wall, that structure. This is how you stop. We can address intergenerational trauma, because you could have went on and did the same thing that maybe she did from maybe learn from her parents and so on and so forth. And that's not knowing how to say no and being taken advantage of, as I think Sofia said. And also Sofia said, put your own oxygen mask on first. I love that.
I like that. I love when you
That
said
right
that. I
there
was
was
like, go
save
ahead.
yourself.
Go ahead.
Save yourself.
Save
Yes.
yourself
So
first.
I'm the younger folks. I appreciate this, and Alicia, getting the mental health, having that talk, it's important. And this is all three of you are saying different ways, different avenues that can be taken, all inclusive, putting up boundaries.
Putting up some boundaries.
Putting on that option, going to get the help, and saying, no, you're not going to change my family dynamics. And this is how we're going to do things here, because you know what? This goes on to affect them as well. Having a talk with the children.
Yeah.
So all three are all whatever. I don't know how y'all did this, but these are the three answers that we mainly need: the mental health, the talks, the healing process, and even going to forgive your mom and saying you're sorry, and then you can heal, or you putting up the boundaries. And then Sofia said so much, you went in. You have to be another podcast. We're gonna have to have a part two of her and Miss Alicia too, because she's so
With Miss
prominent.
Alicia. Miss Alicia is phenomenal.
Yes,
Miss
Alicia, she's
Alicia
so
be
prominent.
spitting out
I'm
wisdom.
not saying
She spit out the wisdom.
Sophia wisdom is like she going straight, with no chaser. Okay, I didn't say.
She a little firecracker.
I love it. Yes, but it's so true. All three said something. All three, you said something to the community that needs to be taken heed, that needs to be, addressed, and not only addressed, but initiated. And this is right here, like a 1, 2, 3 step on how to stop intergenerational trauma from what the three of you said. I love it. And I thank you for hosting this podcast for me. We had technical issues, but I know we're going to Zoom from here, and you too.
It only goes up. It only gets better.
That's right. But these two, Alicia and Sofia, even the team that's working in the background, I just want to say thank you so much. Thank you for making this happen. The word has to be put out there. This has to be shared, because we need to know that resilience is having the power to say no, or help, or I'm sorry.
Yep.
That's what resilience is,
I love it.
I love my Bible too. The scripture was there when I love this part when there was a part where Moses was interceding for the people, because God was like, I'm gonna take these people out, right? And what caught my attention was he said, Lord, take your power back. That's power. Take your power back and don't destroy the people. That's the power of holding back anger, holding back, the wrath. And that's when a man that could control his power is powerful. That's so much wisdom that you gave tonight, and I really appreciate you all.
Wait, Miss P, I know that this is a podcast for your parents, and I raise girls and boys at International, but I want Miss Alicia and Miss Sofia to give a word of wisdom, because we will be sharing this with the parents. It will be played on all platforms. So Miss Alicia, Miss Sofia, please drop a little word of wisdom, something that you would like to share to our parents that can help them when it comes to parenting, or when it comes to being resilient in parenting.
Okay. I think that from one parent to another, mother or father, please deeply invest in your personal development, deeply invest in your personal growth, however it is that you want to identify with it: personal development, personal growth, self-care, healing and growth. Invest in that. The more that you do the internal work, the more that you work on yourself, and the more that the quality of care that you give to yourself is going to be like a domino effect in everything that you do. I always say that personal development is the prerequisites to any success in your life. So no matter what area you are professionally, no matter how many titles you hold, how many hats you wear, that's going to be directly affected by what you give to yourself. That self-care, how you take care of yourself, how you're healing yourself, how you're growing. Give yourself grace. Growth and healing is a lifelong process, right? That's not something that you get overnight. That's not something that it comes full circle overnight. So I think that I would leave everyone with: invest in your personal development, continue to equip yourself with the tools to be the best version of yourself. And when you're the best version of yourself, that means that you're the best version of a mother, a best version of a wife, a best version of whatever else you do in your life. But it starts with you.
Miss Alicia, would you like to be my coach? I know you coach for the CRB program, but come on, come coach me. I love it. On a side note, Okay, Sofia, go ahead, jump right in. A word of wisdom or something you want to leave with irate parents.
Put God first. Always have someone that you truly trust in, and that's through God. I don't care who else is out there, because He would never leave your side. Talk to God. Invest, apply all the time, but mostly talk to God. That's the most important relationship, because the relationship that you build with God will be the strongest relationship that you can invest in yourself, which will allow you to put the oxygen on, which will allow you to not make the same mistakes that everyone is making. Because I could talk to you, someone else can talk to you, but if you don't have that faith and communication with God, the maker of all, none of this matters. So have that relationship with God, talk to God. Like, I don't care if it's like, what's up, God? What you doing today? Like, have that relationship with God. That's the best thing that you can do. That relationship with God, I don't care how it looks to anybody else, have that relationship. That's the best thing you can do. And everything else will follow.
Come on, Sofia.
I know that's the truth.
Listen, Sofia, she don't care. She's one of them Christians that are sold out. Yeah, she's definitely sold out for Christ, and I love it. I love it. Sometimes I'll be trying not to, because we are recording, but I love it. Put God first, everything else will follow. I don't want to go ahead and start preaching now, but because the preacher and me, the evangelist in me kind of want to go off, but I'm trying to contain my spirit. Thank you, Sofia. Thank you for the words that you're saying. Thank you, Alicia, for the words of wisdom that you have shared with us. This is the end of our podcast. I'm sorry, Miss P, that I took over your podcast.
It's okay. This is so good. This was so good, and I really appreciated it. I appreciated it. And it's just, thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for who attended. Thank you, Alicia. Thank you, Sofia. Miss Giselle, big shout out to you for working on tech today. She's not a tech person, but she made it happen. Giselle, you're amazing. Sofia, you're amazing. Alicia, you're amazing. Miss P, you're amazing. Thank you for our private audience who came, our VIP audience. This is our first podcast. This is something to celebrate. There will be a next one next week, Friday.
Yes. All right. Thank you.
All right, guys. Have a great Friday.
All right.
Bye, everyone. All right, guys. Thank you for joining our podcast. This will be on live, so we'll see you again for part 2 next week.